Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to another episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Monday review time, and unfortunately, after last week's euphoria of the 2-0 victory at Fratton Park, home of the league leaders Portsmouth, we are back to what is sadly becoming the norm at the moment and discussing another poor performance at home, another frustrating defeat, another game that passes us by at the Medway Priestfield, and another game where we've ended up with more questions than answers, unfortunately, and a lot of them seem to revolve around our manager now and is he on borrowed time. But yeah, we was there Saturday for match day live. Ended up Gillingham 0, Southend 2, as you're all probably aware. First half, pretty even. We probably just shaded it in terms of possession and possession around the box. Defensively, we were very strong. The back four were immense again, and Thomas Holy, that was so obviously him, and then Barry Fuller, Max Amar, Gabriel Zaquani and Luke O'Neill, all very, very impressive. Supported ably by midfield in front of them, and at half time we said, well, in this, and it's up to us now, if we go and stamp our authority on proceeding second half, we've got enough about us to potentially win the football match. And then unfortunately, second half, we just didn't come out of the dressing room, and within 8 minutes, we were 2-0 down. First goal, Simon Cox seems to have an eternity on the edge of our box to get his feet sorted out and get his shot away left-footed, and I'm not sure whether it took a deflection, but it beat Thomas Holy and went into the bottom corner. And then, as has been our Achilles heel this season so far, 1 goal brought 2 for our opponents, and their midfielder was allowed to run unchallenged from effectively the halfway line to RD, and then slotted in Mr. Cox again, and he very smartly slid his finish under Thomas Holy and into the far post, and we were 2-0 down and suddenly chasing it. There was plenty of effort and plenty of industry and plenty of work rate and desire, but in terms of cuteness and quality with the ball in the final third, unfortunately we were left slightly lacking again. I thought Elliot List had a big chance to make an impact, got his first start because of the injury to Brandon Hanlon, and he was one of the biggest disappointments, unfortunately for me, over the 90 minutes. I think I've heard plenty of people say on social media they forgot he was even on second half. He just didn't see the ball, but when he did have it, I think he had one shot that he blasted into the rain and never really troubled the net or the keeper, and it was just one of them days for Elliot. Unfortunately, he wasn't the only one by any means. Like I say, as good as we were first half, we were as bad second period, unfortunately. Biggest positive for me were the 3 substitutes that came on. That was Bradley Stevenson, Bradley Garmston and Connor Wilkinson. They all come on and tried to make things happen. Bradley Stevenson was bright. He set up the chance for Elliot List. He had one curler that may have been creeping in the bottom corner, tipped round the post by the Southend keeper Oxley, and Connor Wilkinson, for me, definitely won 1 penalty that wasn't given, and he could have had 2. But we didn't get them decisions, and I guess that's what happens when you're down at the bottom and things aren't going your way. You tend not to get the 50-50 decisions, the ones that you may get when you're at the top of the league. And on top of that, back page of the Medway Messenger, mounting injury woes is the headline. Both Gabriel Zaquani and Dean Parrott are massively doubtful now for next Saturday's trip to Doncaster. Gabby went off with an injury midway through the second half, and Dean Parrott was seen to be struggling for the last sort of 15 minutes. He managed to get through, but he needed treatment on the pitch at the final whistle and was effectively a passenger for the last few minutes of the game. So more problems. Can't blame the pitch now. Inside double strike proves decisive. A brand new pitch couldn't improve Gill's home fortunes on Saturday. It's now 5 without a win at Priestfield for Gillingham, and the spate of injuries also continued, as I've already just spoken about. Picture of Connor Wilkinson looking frustrated after being turned down for a penalty appeal. For me, the first one was stonewall. He gets there in front of Mark Oxley, flicks it round him, and then Oxley just bundles him into the back of him and pushes him over in the box. It's a stonewaller, and I said on the match day live, because 5 minutes later Barry Fuller's defending the ball in our penalty area, and he gets there just in front of their front man and clears it, and then he gets bundled over in the back. free kick to Gillingham was given. So why is it different in different penalty areas and for different players? Doesn't make sense to me. In terms of Luke Cordell's final paragraph or so in his match report, Gill's attacking zeal revolved around Regan, Charles Cook and Brandon Hanlon in the early weeks of the season, and both are now injured. Billy Bingham was the man expected to hold it all together from midfield, but he's also currently out of action. Getting everyone fit is the most important challenge facing the Gills right now if they want to get clear from trouble at the bottom of League One. We're in a relegation battle at the moment. There's no point dressing it up and pretending otherwise. We are currently 19th in League One. We do have a game in hand, which is the positive. If we win that, then we probably move up about 4 or 5 places, so it wouldn't look too bad then. But it's just another game at home that looks winnable on paper, especially after last week's impressive showing on the road, and we fell short again, unfortunately, for whatever reason. Interestingly though, Steve Lovell talks, and for the first time, for me at least in a few weeks, actually says that he's taking the blame. He says, and this is regarding his players, they didn't drop their heads, none of them did. I will stick up for them all the way through because they have worked their hardest, and if anyone is going to take the blame, then I am. That's a little bit refreshing. We've spoken about Steve Lovell quite a lot in the last few weeks, and it always seems to be when we lose games that it's the players and we can't do any more than coach them and train them. It's up to them when they cross that white line. But when we win, it's, oh yeah, we do everything together. So for me, there was too much distance in himself from the poor form. But at least he's held his hands up and said he's at fault as well now. The system clearly didn't work again, unfortunately. Well, it did and it didn't. Like I say, first half we were really good, so it's a little bit tricky because we played it against Portsmouth and we were really good and everyone done their jobs. But I think it's one of them systems where if you switch off in the slightest, then it falls down quite quickly, and that was proved with the 2 goals that we conceded within a couple of minutes of each other. But yeah, on to our manager. I did run a poll in the immediate aftermath of full time on Saturday because there was a lot of talk about Steve Lovell and there was plenty of Lovell out sort of tweets and posts, and then there was others saying hang about he deserves time because of the great job that he done last season, and that gives him a bit of leeway, and do we give him till the end of the month, do we give him another 6 games, all that type of thing. So I just put a poll out that said let's try and find out what Gills fans are thinking. Ran it for 24 hours. I think the options were Lovell stays, Lovell goes, or we give him the next 3 games and then reassess, and these were the results coming up on your screen right now. So as you can see from the graphic, there was about 600 votes. 41% are still saying they want Lovell to stay, and another 41% are saying they want him to get at least the next 3 games, which is 82%. So only 18 saying they definitely want him gone straight away. So it seems that the majority of the Gills fan base are still with Steve Lovell. Obviously, people ask me what my thoughts are, and I said at the time on Saturday, I said I wasn't sure. But unfortunately, he's only won 6 of his last 29 league games, which is 21% win ratio. So if we compare that to his predecessor, Adrian Pennock, everyone said they wanted him out because of a win ratio of 20%. So it's not a lot different. And obviously at the moment we're on the slide and there's no immediate signs of that improving drastically. So if you're basing it on that, then I guess you'd have to say you want him gone. But if we're looking at it down the route of, well, he was very good last season in what he did when he came in difficult circumstances, and maybe deserves a little bit of leeway, then he's been in charge of the Gills for 46 league games now. I think he's won 15, drawn 15 and lost 16. So over a full season, that's 60 points, which would probably see you finish around mid-table or just below. So based on that, we'd probably take that because that would be improvement on the last couple of seasons. But obviously we can't dress up the fact that the Barron run at the moment is awful, really, really bad, and we need to see a change quickly. The next 3 are all games where you'd probably say we may get something. Doncaster, we picked up a point last season up there, so that's who we've got Saturday. Plymouth are really struggling. They've only won 1 game all season, they're rock bottom. And Bradford after that at home, a third bottom as well with only 10 points, a point less than Gills with an extra game played. So I would love Steve Lovell to turn it round. Of course I would, because if Steve Lovell's turning it round, then it means Gillingham Football Club are winning more football matches, and that's the be all and end all as a supporter of the club. And if we're winning more football matches, then we're climbing the table. Unfortunately, it's just becoming harder and harder to make a case for him to stay. I think if we got beat at Portsmouth and then lost at home to Southend, I think he'd be on very thin ice, to be honest. But obviously, he may have bought himself a bit more time with the win at Fratton Park last week. But the other thing is, similarly to the chats that we see on social media regarding the chairman and everyone who wants him out, there has to be a plan and something in place if Steve Lovell does get sacked or leaves, resigns, whatever. And in terms of managers available, is there an abundance of names out there at the moment? I mean, we spoke to James and Reese on the Gills Fancast a few weeks ago, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank is one name that's been mentioned around us before. Would we able to afford him? I mean, we all know that money's tight, and we've just shelled out 500,000 on a new pitch, so obviously that's had to come from somewhere. The other name that was mentioned a few weeks ago was Keith Curl, who left Carlisle. He'd done a pretty decent job up there in League Two. He's come all the way down and joined Northampton in the same division and seems to have started quite well. So that's another one that's gone now that you can cross off as an option. One that's worked under probably worse chairman than ours, because Gills fans, believe it or not, there are worse chairmen out there than Paul the Devil Scally. I think some just go slightly over the top in their opinions and the way they voice their frustrations, because every defeat and every poor team selection and every bit of news that the club tweets isn't Paul Scally's fault. I do believe there was a planned protest on Saturday from WH Smith's in Gillingham High Street, and I think about half a dozen people turned up. So, but then again, on the flip side, attendances are dropping, so people are voting with their feet. I think the attendance on Saturday was 5,500, and Southend bought 1,000 from there. So that shows that people have stopped coming to football matches, and you can totally understand that. It's not very good, and it hasn't been very good at home for a long time now. I think I saw a tweet from Reese off the Fancast at the weekend, and he said Gills have won 14 of 52 home matches in the league since the start of 2016-17, which is awful. You can't say otherwise, unfortunately. But yeah, so back to options. I think the last one that gone off on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry, yeah, in terms of working under chairman and working in constrained situations and difficult circumstances, and that would be Gary Bowyer, who left Blackpool at the start of the season. I think would be a decent option at this level. Geographically, he's always tended to be up north, so he's been at Blackburn and he's been at Blackpool. But if we do replace Steve Lovell, we have to, and we've said this before, this is a yearly cycle, unfortunately, we have to get the next appointment right. I know James on the Fancast is very fearful that if we did get relegated, we could go down straight away from League Two and into the National League, and obviously none of us want that to happen, regardless of our thoughts on the manager, the chairman, and all the other side shows that some perceive to be going on, because at the end of the day, we're all football supporters and we're all supporters of Gillingham Football Club, and the biggest thing we want is them to play well and to pick up good results on the football pitch. So yeah, I think personally, to give a definitive answer, is that he gets till the end of this month, Steve Lovell, which is Doncaster, Plymouth and Bradford. I'd imagine if we lose all three, then he probably has to go, unfortunately, because then it would be 6 wins from 32, and that would be below the Adrian Pennant win ratio, and that was when, and we'd definitely be entrenched in the bottom four then, and I think that's generally when our chairman starts to panic a little bit, and then we'd be 15 games into the season with only 3 wins, and that'd be not good enough. You can't pretend otherwise. So for me, he gets the next 3. I know plenty want him out. I know plenty more want him to stay, and that's fine. We all have different opinions on it. Anyway, that's enough from me. We have gone over 900 subscribers now on the channel, so thank you very much to everybody. Much appreciated. Please keep spreading the word. The next target is obviously 1,000. We will look to do a prize draw. We'll have a look, see what we can get hold of in terms of a giveaway to say thank you. But until next time, up the Gills.